Hello everyone, this is Thealphaprogrammer and welcome to your 8th Java programming tutorial. And in this tutorial, we're going to learn about if, else if, and else statements. So if is, as you would think, in real life, if something happened, do something, and then if something else happened, then do another thing. So for example, let's say you had a hot dog stand. You would say, if the hot dog got burnt, throw it in the trash. So that would be a basic example of an if statement in real life. Now in Java, it's a bit different but very similar to real life. So I'm going to show you if statements in a program where it asks the user, do you like hot dogs? And then the user either enters Y or enters N, meaning that Y is yes, N is no. So let's get started on the program and you'll see how to make if, else if, and else statements. Now you need to import Java util scanner. After you've imported that, go inside your main method and make a scanner variable called scan and set this equal to new scanner parentheses, and inside the parentheses put in system.in. Where'd my, okay, that was odd. Anyways, so now that you have your scanner variable defined and assigned, now you want to print out on the screen, do you like hot dogs? So in order to do that, do system.out.println, and in here just do you like hot dogs? And then you want to put in your line terminator, and on the next line you now want to get the user's input and assign it to something. So I'm going to make a string variable, string, and I'm going to call this one input and set this equal to scan.nextLine. And scan.nextLine, as you remember, would get the input and put it into a string. But we want to only get a character, and a string isn't a character, it's a series of characters that must be more than one. So in order to get the first character only, you have to make a new variable. So I'm going to make a char variable, and char is basically character. I'm going to call this one in, and set this equal to input dot char at, and then put in a 0, and then put in your line terminator. Now what basically happened here is char in, the variable, got sent to input, but we want only one character, and we want the character at index 0. And index 0 is basically the very first number. In computer programming, 0 is always the beginning of everything. Everything starts at 0. Indexes start at 0. Just so you know. So now that we have that covered, we're good to go. Now we can make our if statement, which is if. This is how you do it. If, and then after the if, parentheses, and in here, type in equals single quotation marks y, and then curly bracket open, curly bracket close outside of your parentheses. And now we've made our if statement. Now this is the condition inside the parentheses. This is the condition. So if in the variable is equal to y, do this. And the reason I use 2 equal signs, not 1, is because 1 equal sign, if you remember, is the assignment operator. 2 equal signs is a comparison operator that checks to see if both sides are completely equivalent to each other. So now that we have that covered, the single quotation marks, by the way, is when you use them, means you're using only one character in it. So characters or char variables, when you're comparing char variables, you have to put in single quotation marks what you want to compare. So since it's a char variable and it has to be compared to only one character, I need to put in the single quotation marks and put the character there. If I put in double quotes, I'll get an error. So now that we have that covered, we can go inside our if statement and actually write what would happen if the user did enter y. So just do system.out.println, and we're just going to tell them congrats. And then outside of your if statement, but still inside your main method, you want to do else if. And this is else if. This is an else if statement. Now, else if is very similar to if. It's actually exactly like if, but you need to have an if before it. If you don't, this will not work. Else if, by the way, is basically saying if the statement above is proven to be false, try this. And you can only have one if statement in one basic group of if, else if, and else statements, but you can have as many as you want else ifs, but only one else statement. So we have that covered. Let's put in our condition. So in equal n, and then curly bracket open, curly bracket close outside of your condition. And now in here, just do system.out.println, and we're gonna display on the screen too bad . And then now we have a statement that handles what would happen if the user entered n. So now we want to handle what happens if a user enters something other than y and n. We want to give them an error message. So in order to do that, just do else, and then curly bracket open, curly bracket close. And the reason I didn't put a condition is because else means if all the statements above are incorrect or proved to be false, execute this code. So it's basically like safety, kind of. Println, and then here just do invalid input. Can only enter y or n. And now we have a basic operating program that asks the user, do you like hot dogs? The user inputs yes, or they input no. Well, they actually input y or n, which basically means yes and no. And after they do that, it takes it turns it into a char variable, and then it compares it and sees which one of these statements is true. And by the way, you can have an if statement by itself, no if, no else if, but I just show you how to use if, else if, and else all together. You can also just not have this else and not have this else if, and only handle what would happen if the user entered y. But we want to also be able to handle what would happen if the user pressed n, and also what would happen if the user didn't press y or n. So now that we have our basic program, you want to hit save, hit run, and then it asks us, do you like hot dogs? Let's see. Why? Congrats. Let's run this again and see what we get. Do you like hot dogs? N. Too bad. Let's run it again and enter an incorrect input, like J. Invalid input. You can only enter Y or N. Let's run that again and enter another input that's incorrect, like E. Invalid input. You can only enter Y or N. So, yeah, it's going to be all for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we're going to be taking our knowledge from if and our knowledge from the previous tutorial and combining them and making an improved yet simple calculator that can add, subtract, multiply, divide, and get the remainder of, even. So, that's going to be all for this tutorial, though. And this is Thealphaprogrammer signing off. Bye-bye.